Hey guys, I'm back here with another video on progress on the Planishing Hammer. Like I said, quarantine, everything's kind of slow, so I'm just trying to get things done in the shop. So I'm going to show you guys a little bit what I've been working on the hammer, and you guys can kind of see where I'm going with this. So as you guys can see, I got it painted and I got a lot of it kind of in place. The mechanism that I had machined and everything, because my lathe wouldn't accept this big of a piece, this is machined in here. This is like a cylinder. Down in here is where it stops. That's all Acme threads, machined all out of one piece. This guide here is to keep this from rotating, because once I put some pins in here so the dies can't spin, I don't want this to spin. And it's pretty simple. This chrome nut down here is, you just move this handle and you can wind it down, and then you can wind it up. So it's pretty simple. The method that I'm using, it's kind of like an English wheel, and I'm going to put the hammer head in and put a set of dies in. Okay, so that's the receiver that I made. And I basically took a hammer, and this was the original hammer that I was using, and I put a sleeve in here. And the reason why is the dies that I'm making, as you can see here. So you see the hole already in there. I haven't drilled the hole in this. So that goes in there. Then I have these quick pins I'm gonna use, and I believe they're Jergens. They're not cheap, but I can put it in this way, and I'm gonna have another hole drilled 90 degrees depending on which way I wanna work the machine. So with that, this one here comes into the top, which is the female. And, now hold on. And with, these are just a normal set of shrinking dies, thumbnail that I made, but as you can see, you put this in and you just screw it up. You can get, once you get your sheet metal depth and they're locked in with pins, once I get to that point, you jam your nut down. You just jam it down, and what happens, it locks this from when it's beaten, it won't vibrate loose. So obviously you can see that I have it set up. That's pretty much the height that I feel comfortable with. This thing here I came up with, I've seen it on other models, and it's more like a Yoder hammer or power hammer model. But if I'm working a big panel, this is a 26-inch throat. So if I'm out here at 52 inches, somewhere out in this distance, I can't hold that up out here. So what I did is I machined a little thing, jammed it into a piece of tubing, and put like basically a wing nut. And I can put this wherever I want, but it's basically like a third hand. So I could have the panel hitting here if I'm just trying to like smooth out a weld or something, and it could be resting here. I am gonna also make another piece similar to this that has a sleeve that has another wing nut, because this is adjustable here on that shaft, like so. So I could put it anywhere I want. So what I'm gonna do, my next deal, is I'm gonna make another one kind of like a fence that I have on the bead roller, to where it'll come all the way up to the die once I lock it out at the minimal deal, and then I can move this back depending on my depth of where I want the fence. So it's working out pretty decent. I got it painted. I've got to get a foot pedal, and it's pretty much plumbed. I still, like I said, I got to drill a couple holes in this, but the difference between a lot of these machines is they're just square tubing, they're gonna echo. So hopefully the video that you guys are listening to right now, hopefully you could hear this, but I'm gonna show you by just putting Quickcrete mortar powder in this thing, it's gonna sound deaden it. And it's gonna sound so solid. This machine sounds like I built out a solid plate. And all it is 2x1 85 wall square tubing. You could look at my other Planishing Hammer build when I was building it. And then I plated it in with 1/8 inch plate. And then up here, I made a cap, and that's how I filled the whole spine with mortar. Then I welded a base. This is a tractor disc, and I use them on a lot of my tools, but I put a plate on the bottom of it, and then inside here, when I mapped it out, I blew an elongated hole. And it took some time to get the mortar powder down in there, and I had to roll it and shake it and vibrate it to get sand in here, or get that powder in here. This one here, this is not tied in. The way it's designed, it's just, there's a straight piece of tubing that comes straight through here, and then this is just basically ties straight in. This is like a gusset. So the only way I can get mortar powder in here was to fill it from here before I welded this on. So what I ended up doing, I laid it on its back. I got this where I needed it and got it true. I filled it with mortar powder. I laid this in. What I ended up doing is, once my machinist got all this done for me, I put a piece of tubing in here. I clamped it down so I knew where center was. And I shoved it down, and it went over this a good ways. And what I did is I cranked it up to where it locked out, where it couldn't go any higher. And what it did, it locked it in, and it kept it true to the center pin of this. Then I came in and I ended up welding it out and let the heat cool and pull it back. Another secret that you could do is, after you get it all welded, is come back and sweat your welds. And that's by heating up with a torch, and you'll see that you'll suck out any, because like if you start here and you weld around, it's gonna start pulling directly in. And then you come down here and you do it, it could pull at a different rate. So once you sweat your welds, it goes back to a normal state. After the machine was totally cooled, I pulled everything apart, put the hammer in, and bada bing, bada boom, it's a dead hit. Centered straight up. Now, you could do it various ways. This is just the way I did it. I wanted something to look like I didn't store-bought it. I mean, I know it probably looks like you probably could go to the store and buy it, but this was my own design. I drew it up. I made this little deal out of aluminum, and I'm gonna go get some rubber grommets. I gotta blow these holes a little bit bigger, and that's to keep the noise down, because once this starts pounding, these are gonna be noisy. So basically, you just stick them in and let them sit on rubber grommets, and you got an assortment of dies, and it'll be quiet. The only thing that's not gonna be quiet is the hammer. But I figured I'd want to share this with you. I did ended up, from the original build, I had the stainless line going all the way to the hammer. I thought about it. It's gonna vibrate. So what I ended up doing is I put a union connector here, and then I used high pressure AN fittings and stuff for the hose. So I do got a little bit of a flex. I don't need that to flex. So stay tuned. If you're not a subscriber, subscribe. If not, stay tuned and look at some of my other videos. But here, this is the progress of the Planishing Hammer.